Hello Muggles and welcome back to my Harry Potter kitchen, the YouTube series where I am baking my way through the Harry Potter books, making a recipe for all of the food and drink featured inside. If you missed last week's recipe for our zesty grilled lamb chops as part of our Great Hall Feast, then make sure you check out the link down below in the description to catch up. But it's Magic Monday, so let's see what's waiting for us today. Got room for more food? Well, if like me you're a massive fan of Harry Potter and you don't want to miss a thing from my Harry Potter kitchen, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell so you get an alert every Monday when there is a brand new recipe. Speaking of which, let's get back to the Great Hall and see what's next. Okay, so we're about halfway through all of the main course dishes as part of the Great Hall Feast, but let's keep on going. He had never seen so many things he'd like to eat on one table. Roast beef, roast chicken, pork chops and lamb chops, sausages, bacon, which we made as part of our Harry Potter fry-up. Check out the playlist down below to catch up on those. And steak. It's our final meat recipe of the Great Hall Feast, so let's do something special. For this recipe, you will need 2 juicy steaks, which we're going to season with salt and pepper, 4 cloves of garlic, and some sprigs of fresh rosemary. We're also going to accompany this with 4 Hogwarts House steak sauces. So for our Gryffindor red wine jus, you will need 2 cloves of garlic, 2 shallots, salt and pepper, and half a teaspoon of rosemary and thyme. You'll also need 60 millilitres of beef stock, 60 millilitres of red wine, and a tablespoon or 25 grams of butter. For our Hufflepuff Bearnaise sauce, you will need 75 grams of butter, 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar, 1 shallot, salt and pepper, and half a tablespoon of tarragon, 1 egg yolk, and a quarter teaspoon of lemon juice. For our Slytherin Chimichurri sauce, you will need half a red chilli, 4 cloves of garlic, half a cup of fresh parsley, 125 millilitres of good quality olive oil, 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar, and we're going to season this with 1 teaspoon of oregano and some salt and pepper. And finally, for our Ravenclaw blue cheese sauce, you will need 1 shallot, 2 cloves of garlic, 60 millilitres of beef stock, 60 millilitres of white wine, 125 millilitres of double cream, and 50 grams of blue cheese. So far we've roasted, slow cooked and grilled our meat, so I wanted to do something special for this recipe, and it's actually something that I've wanted to try for quite some time, and that is sous vide. If you've never heard of sous vide before, it is French and means under vacuum. So you seal your meat in a vacuum bag and then cook it usually in water at a very low temperature. This means it keeps all its juices locked in and is really, really tender. You have to invest in a little bit of kit to do it, but it is definitely worth it to take your steak to the next level. You want to begin by preparing your steaks, and for this you don't want your steaks to be too thin, otherwise they will overcook. I've gone for a good quality sirloin steak that has lots of marbling of fat, which is going to give us flavour. Pat your steaks dry and then season them with salt and pepper. Pop these into the bags that you will vacuum them in, and then add in your garlic and rosemary. The next step is to use a food-safe vacuum sealer to seal in all those flavours and juices in your steak, and also make sure we can control the temperature more when it cooks. All you need to do is place your vacuum bag into the middle, close down the lid and pop it on. You'll quickly see all the air being pulled out and the heating element will seal it shut. The next step is to get your sous vide wand, and this is going to allow you to get a very precise temperature of the water that we're going to cook the steaks in. Now timings will depend on how you like your steak, but typically it's going to range between 50 degrees Celsius and 70 degrees Celsius. The 50 degree mark being your very rare steaks and 70 being well done. I prefer medium, so I go for 60 degrees and actually a little bit less, around 57, so that when we cook the outside of the steak, we've got a bit of wiggle room. Your time will also depend on how thick cut your steaks are. The thicker they are, typically the longer you can cook them for, and they'll still stay juicy. But if they're a bit on the thin side, then you don't want to leave them in as long. I've gone for 4 hours, as that usually gives you some great results. But the best thing you can do is trial it out, give it a few goes, and then you'll find your perfect time. All you need to do is attach it to the side of a pot or container. I like to go for the sous vide ones that have a clamp on, as that means you can use pretty much anything. Fill it up with water until it is between the minimum and maximum point. Follow the instructions to set the wand to your desired temperature, pop it on, and once it's just about there, add in your steaks. Make sure the bags are fully submerged, but be careful that they don't block any of the vents of your sous vide wand. Your wand should have a timer setting, so let it cook at your precise temperature until your steaks are ready. Now, rather than just sitting back and relaxing for those 4 hours, I thought we would put it to good use by making 4 steak sauces. And of course, there are 4 Hogwarts houses, so each one is inspired by one of those magical houses. They're really easy to make, and of course it won't take you the whole 4 hours, but it means you can change up the recipes and personalize it to your dinner guests. First up is our Gryffindor red wine jute, and all you need to do is prepare your garlic and shallots. I'm going to thinly slice our shallots into nice circles and then crush our garlic. Whiz them over to a pan on a medium heat and then add in some olive oil and fry them down. Once they're nice and soft, you can also season them with salt, pepper, rosemary and thyme. Allow them to caramelise and then add in your beef stock and red wine. You'll then need to let this reduce down so it starts to thicken up, and that can take between 5 and 10 minutes. Once it's about half of the volume, then you can add in your butter to thicken it up. Now, it is perfectly fine to serve it just as is, but if you want a smooth red wine jus, then all you need to do is pass it through a sieve and give those onions a squeeze to release the last few drops of flavour. You can then pour your red wine jus into your serving dish and it is ready to go. So we've got quite a bold red wine jus for our Gryffindors, but for our Hufflepuffs, I thought we'd go for something classical and smooth, which is a Bearnaise sauce. This is slightly more complicated, but really easy to get the hang of. First, you need to clarify your butter, which means we're going to add it to a pan and melt it down, and then we're going to pour it into a jug to cool. Once it comes down closer to room temperature, you'll notice that there are some white solids in your butter. All you want to do is pass this through a fine sieve to remove it, and then you'll have a nice clear yellow that we're going to use for the sauce later. Next, we're going to prepare our shallots by finely grating it so we get a nice smooth sauce. Once this is done, you can head back to your pan and fry them off on a medium heat. Add in your white wine vinegar to deglaze the pan, along with your salt, pepper and tarragon, and give it a good stir. Once about half of the vinegar has evaporated, you then want to remove it from the heat and let it cool. In a separate bowl, we're going to crack our egg and only keep the egg yolk for this recipe, so you can use the whites for a meringue or something else. And then to that, we're going to add in our lemon juice. Give that a good whisk and then add in your cooled vinegar onions. Get yourself a pot of simmering water and then place the bowl on top, whisking it through until it starts to thicken. This is going to cook our egg yolk, so you don't have to worry about eating them raw. Once that is nice and thick, we're going to take it off the heat and slowly whisk in our butter. Keep on going until you've got your desired consistency. The Bearnaise sauce should be smooth and creamy. So there you go, the Bearnaise sauce is a lovely shade of Hufflepuff. Up next are our Slytherins, and for that we want something that's a bit more sharp and also spicy, so we're going to go for Chimichurri. Chimichurri is a super simple sauce that you can make in about 5 minutes. All you need to do is prepare your chili by slicing it in half and removing the seeds, as that might pack a bit too much heat, and you also want to peel your 4 garlic cloves. Add these into a food processor along with the rest of your ingredients. That's the parsley, which we're going to season with salt, pepper and oregano, and our olive oil and red wine vinegar. Pop the lid on top and then blitz it until it is nice and smooth. At this point you should taste your sauce and then add in any extra salt and pepper if you like. Give it one final blitz and then it is ready to go. Okay, so that's something zesty and sharp for our Slytherins, but what to do for our Ravenclaws? I couldn't actually think of a truly blue sauce that goes well with steak, but then I remembered blue cheese sauce, and although it might not be blue to the eye, if you're a clever Ravenclaw, you know what it's all about. Now the start of the blue cheese sauce is very similar to our Gryffindor red wine jute. You want to start by preparing your shallots and your garlic, and then head on over to the stove where we're going to fry them off until they're nice and soft. Add in your beef stock, but this time instead of red wine, we're going to use white wine. Allow that to reduce by half for about 5 minutes and then add in your cream. Give this a good stir and then allow it to simmer until it is thickened. This will take about 10 minutes. Once it's almost ready, add in your blue cheese and whisk it until it is all melted. Then it's as easy as removing it from the heat, popping it into your dish and then adding some extra blue cheese on top. Okay, so all our Hogwarts House steak sauces are ready to go, and there's just one step left to finish our perfectly cooked steaks. This is what you need to do. Once your sous vide has finished cooking, you want to remove your vacuum bags from the water. Cut them open and free your steaks. As you can see, as they've technically been boiled, they're a bit grey and not too appetising on the outside. So we're going to pat them dry and then use a blowtorch to caramelise the outsides. Now you could fry the outsides, but the great trick about using a blowtorch is that it means that our perfectly cooked steaks aren't going to overcook as part of this process. Once you're happy with the finish, you can plate them up, and I prefer to slice the steaks just to reveal the beautiful juicy insides. As you can see, I've gone for medium, and in contrast to when you fry steaks, there's usually a bit of grey meat before you get to that nice pink juicy inside. As you can see, it's pretty much all pink, edge to edge, which is how you know this steak is going to be super, super good. I had a hard time choosing between these sauces, so the best thing you can do is serve them all. So there you go. This is actually the first time I've used the sous vide method, but I absolutely loved the finished product. So I'm definitely going to have a little play around with it and see what else I can sous vide. If you like this recipe and you want to see more from my Harry Potter kitchen, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. We've got so much more left to come for the Great Tall Feast, so I'll see you next time.